Do you remember the day that you found that document? Yes, you know that document that just busted open your research, gave you so much information that when you woke up the next day, you thought you were dreaming. Well, today, our special guest, Melvin Collier, he had just that moment. And he's going to share with us today during when grandma's challenge pension opened doors. You know, those, if you are in the pensions, you know the challenge pensions are absolutely the best because they are really fat. Seriously, a challenged pension actually brought me to tears at the National Archives. It was so thick and I was so tired. I had been copying pensions all day, and the last one was like this 150-page pension. But the information was good and it was well worth the time. Hello, everyone. How are you today? Welcome to Genealogy Quick Start. I'm Shamel Jordan, your host. And today we have a special guest, Melvin Collier. I don't know if you guys know Melvin, but he is such a cool guy. And also, you know who my cool guys are. Jim and Michael are going to be here today. And their talk is called Dot Dash Dot. Don't ignore the notations. Seriously, when Michael posted about this on Facebook, I've never seen so many likes in my life on one post of a person that I personally know. Like celebrities have these kind of posts, you know, these kind of likes. Michael John Neal talking about notations, which seem to be quite important. They're going to break it down for you today on Genealogy Quick Start. So you guys know what to do. You know, if you're here, I need to know you're here. Tell us your name. Tell us where you are. And most definitely, tell us your genealogy group because there might be some genealogy souls out here that need saving. So, guys, you know we are on Philly Cam. That's our studio where this show is broadcast. Also, we go live on Facebook and YouTube. So we're really happy to have you here today. Let's bring on my best friends. Here they are, columnist and editor, Jim Bidler, as well as blogger, more appropriately, author, and Facebook king, Michael John Neal. How are you, Michael?
Well, I didn't wear my crown today, so Charles had it. I just can't get it out away from him, so I'm kind of stuck.
Well, when you were talking about celebrities, I mean, Michael is a celebrity.
He really is.
Or at least an OGS featured speaker. So
you got it in. Kaboom.
He did.
So today, you know, we have our special guest, Melvin. He's going to be talking about this document that just opened up his genealogy life. Have you guys had such a document in your life?
Yeah, I'd say certainly mine was when I found the 1727 marriage of my immigrant surname ancestor in Germany, because that revealed the village of origin to me. So, and I found it 10 minutes before I was going to be leaving the family history library in Salt Lake, the last microfilm I was looking at.
That is hilarious. I've had that as well. I had right before I was heading to the airport to leave Alabama, I said, Grandma, just let me run to the courthouse, like, you know, for an hour while you're getting ready. And I found this administration record of her grandfather, and it listed all of his kids with their ages, where they were living at the time of death. And most importantly, I learned that they did not like my grandmom's dad because they said he was dead and he was alive. Michael, have you had any cool finds like that?
I've had a lot of cool finds, but the one that comes to mind is when a court case in Virginia, there were two dudes with the exact same name, and we argued about which one stayed in Virginia and which one went to Kentucky. And I knew I was right, but I didn't have good paper. I found a court case that made it abundantly clear the James I thought went to Kentucky. I won't go into the details, but that, for me, that was a huge find, that it confirmed which one went where.
How about you out there? You guys, those watching, have you found like what is that record that really just changed your life? We'd love to hear about it in the comments. Let's see who we have here, guys. So, oh my goodness, Wayne, I thought you couldn't come. It's so nice to have you and Grace Ann here from down the road. Hello from Seattle and M. Sandvig. Hello. I love Seattle. I miss Seattle so much. They had like this, I didn't know there was like this, winery thing going on there, but I had a ball. Hello, Judy from Chicagoland, from Chicago Genealogical Society of Chicago. Hello, Dean Henry from AAGG in Philly and Family Quest, and of course, the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. Oh my goodness, we have Delaware in the house. Hello, Erwin Pogue from Delaware, and the Delaware Augs chapter. We have our next special guest. Robin Smith is here from Maryland. Hello, Robin. Glad to see you here. Hey, Renata. Hello from Newport News, Virginia. Augs, Hampton Roads. Hello, Selma Stewart from Virginia. We have two back-to-back Virginians. Hello, Katie from Philly. And we have another Kay, Kathy. Hello, Kathy. You're still looking. Kathy hasn't gotten that, breakthrough. Let's everyone have a moment of silence for Kathy to have that breakthrough. All right, Kathy, you're going to have that breakthrough. All right, guys, what is our quick start today?
Well, it's ... which I think is about Morse code. So we're going to see how your ancestor might have sent messages in Morse code and how to translate them.
So what is this? What are these notations that you're talking about? And are we talking about Morse code?
We are not talking about Morse code. No. When we, clerks, scribes, pastors, whomever, they would, for a variety of reasons, use shorthand to save time, save ink, save space on a document and code some things. And so we're going to be looking at some of the more common ones and a few of the not so common ones to give you, so that you interpret those things correctly, because that little wiggle, that little mark, that little squiggle, if you will, might be a very big clue. And if you just, that's just a little bit of the strain that's going on there, you might miss a big revelation, perhaps.
I think that is exactly the biggest key to what we're talking about here, is whatever you do, don't ignore it. You may not figure out exactly what it means. A lot of the ones we're going to show you have a definite meaning, but don't just completely blow it off and decide, whatever. So.
All right, so let's get started with is ... something else? What code is that? ... Don't ignore the notations. And by definitely don't ignore Michael and Jim, right? All right, let's get going with step one, which is find a record with a notation you don't understand. So are there specific records that have more notations than others, or is it just across the board notations?
To be honest, I would say it's across the board. Any record can have some shorthand, if you will, for whatever reason, and you just don't know. Some have, they all can have some shorthand to them. You just want to make sure as we're going to talk about, that you try to figure out as best you can what that stray mark or that wiggle means, if anything.
Yeah, often we think it's like, because we're not necessarily looking at the actual paper copies often, and we think it might be like something in the microfilm or something like that, but pay attention. All right, so step one, find the record with the notation you don't understand. Step two is to transcribe the entry exactly as written. What are some, like, just talking about it, what are some kind of notations that you're talking about here?
Well, do we want to go to the videotape, so to say, and
Sure.
show off some of them?
Sure, let's go to the videotape. This is the thing that cracked open the desire of genealogists to get into these notations. Michael's post.
The dot that launched 1,000 ships. Yes.
Something like that, yes.
All right, here we are. So, Michael, what is this post all about? I think
While
it's
we're waiting
coming.
for that to load, I would suggest to people go back and look at things you think you've already analyzed for maybe notations and things that you might have originally just totally written off. This was from a 1917 baptismal record. The one in the upper right is my great grandfather. And when Ancestry transcribed these, they ignored the dots, which you should not do. And basically, this is real simple. The dot means the name was abbreviated. It says Fred, but his name was Frederick. His wife's name is Trincha. And when I saw this, I thought it was extremely would have been unusual for her to have her complete German name Trincha, and for her husband to be listed as Fred. Usually, if it was Fred, she was Tina, an anglicization of her first name. So there's the dot there, and this also makes the point it wasn't just his name where there was an abbreviation. There's two others on the left-hand side, TOENJ dot. That's Tunyas. They didn't want to write the ES. I didn't think that was that many letters, but what have you. And the one above that was BERNH for Bernhard. They left out the ARD. So if you find something like this for one of your people, and to make sure it isn't a stray mark, look at others on the same page in the same series of entries. Are there same stray marks on every one? Chances are a pastor wasn't making the same stray mark over and over and over again. It means something. In this case, it wasn't. It's just an abbreviation. But you want to make sure that when you transcribe that, I transcribe it FRED period, or the other names I put that period there because that's his name. Yeah, he used Fred as a nickname, but his official name was not Fred, as this indicates.
Did you
And
say
there,
FRED period like Fred Sanford? That's how he used to spell his name with a period. All
yeah,
right. So yes,
because there,
Trace. Hmm.
because here this Fred actually is a name, but a lot of times these abbreviations are not going to be a name in and of themselves.
The other exactly, that's
Yeah.
right. The other two, you don't have to go back, but it was Tunyas. They just dropped off the last two letters. Nobody called him Tunya or whatever the other one was. So they're abbreviations that are not necessarily diminutives. It
Yeah.
was for Fred,
Yeah.
but not for the others. Not for the others.
Yeah.
So I think you had started going on to write research the notation. And so how would you even go about researching this particular notation that you just showed us? How did you know what that was?
Well, I saw the others and I kind of suspected. I'm at the risk of being really blunt. I went back to fourth or fifth grade English, where if you didn't write the whole thing out, you abbreviated and put a period at the end. That was kind of when it clicked. It clicked for me. If it's not something that maybe comes to you like that, I would try to find other people that have used the same set of records or have used similar records for a similar time period to see if they have any insight or any suggestions for how to interpret those things. If you can't, kind of figure it out yourself, you could even try a Google search, but you've got to be careful relying on Google searches to find something to answer some of these nuanced technical.
And of course, you could use Facebook. You could post a comment and say, "Hey, you seen this before?" That's what I love about message boards back in the day and social media today. So I think you had mentioned look at other records in the series for the same notation. Talk to us a little bit more about that, either one of you, while I bring up your next thingy.
Yeah, if you have the one that I contributed from the German marriage record, that shows
Yes, here we go.
Some repetition.
I'm getting it. I have my mouse on bamboo.
So this is a 2-page spread of it's about 10 marriages. And one thing, if you squint close enough, you'll see that just about all the marriages on the left-hand side when you look at it casually, it looks like a cross and an X and something else. What it is, it's a 1, a 2, and a 3. Each of them crossed out because at the time they
Oh,
were subject to what they call marriage bans, in which you were supposed to be announced 3 consecutive Sundays in church. Kind of
oh.
a know of any reason why these two people shouldn't be married? Like the fact that one of them already is, something like that. And so this was this particular pastor's way of showing that those bans had been read the 3 consecutive Sundays. Now, of course, interestingly, when we go to the highlighted one in the lower right hand corner, and bring in that slide, you see they don't have the 1, 2, 3.
They have a big paragraph of explanation.
Yeah, you when you see this, when you see a big paragraph like this, it's probably not the pastor or priest praising their character. That's what you got to know with that. And indeed, in this particular case, he is castigating them for the fact that they're already living together, and the wife is actually about 7.5 months pregnant. Their first child comes along about 6 weeks after the marriage.
Well, you would think that they would just let them get married and quit giving them a hard time. They're trying to do the right thing.
You would think, yeah. Well, you're not understanding the at least the de jure morality of the Protestant clergy at this time.
So that was Protestant. That's what the Protestants did.
Yep.
Oh, they all did it.
Yeah.
But as Jim's got a great example and it goes back to also looking at comparing to the other ones. The others didn't have all that small text in the corner, so that's something you really want to, as he did, figure out what it translates to. You can.
Yep.
So that just goes along with, just kind of understanding what you're looking at. Just take a moment. Like Jim, you had that. That was perfect. Look at the whole page and kind of figure out what's going on. I love that one. That was a great example. I didn't even understand what you were talking about when you said it to me. I was like, what is he talking about? All right. So
you got to brush up on your German, Shamel. So.
I should know German by now. Wouldn't you think? How many years
9.
have I been with you guys? So here is another one. What's this one?
This one's from a record copy of a land deed in the 1860s. But this was a handwritten copy of the original land deed. And it's kind of hard to see in the image there, but I've circled it. The word acres, the clerk has spelled it wrong. A-R-C-R-S or something like that. It's spelled incorrectly, but it's been underlined by the clerk. And now the clerk, when he underlined it, that's his way of saying, yes, I know how to spell acres, and yes, that is spelled wrong, but my job is to copy it as it is written. And so in record copies of land deeds is where I've encountered most of those in my own research, but any record copy of a legal document, if the clerk sees something that he knows is wrong, underlining it, putting a long will or tilde above it, are 2 ways they would make that notation back in the day when it's not a photographic reproduction. The clerk wants somebody to know that's not my mistake. That's somebody else's mistake. And so you'll see those in records, record copies of that type. This is from some church records in Gothenburg, Nebraska. I forget it. It's either a confirmation record or a christening record. But the individual, there's a line over the N. Her name is Fanny. And instead of writing the letter N twice, it was Fanny. There's a straight line over the N, indicating it was a double letter. Typically,
was it that difficult? There's space. What's going on here?
This is like a lot of records. As genealogists, we are not to judge. We are simply to report what we find and go from there. Yeah, sometimes I wonder why they did that. But anyway, a straight line. We're not talking about an umlaut. We're not talking about a wiggle or a tilde. I'm talking about a straight line. these are more often encountered in records created by individuals who had a Germanic background. But it's we don't want to write that letter twice, so we're going to put that line over it to indicate.
Is this another one down here with the dot?
Let me see which one that is. I'm not remembering until I see it. There is a dot at the end of Nebraska to indicate Nebraska.
Oh, okay, it's Nebraska.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move.
That was I just knew that was Nebraska, so that just seemed like second nature. But yeah.
And what do we have here, Michael?
I have no idea.
Mortgage between bar.
This is a record copy of a 3-part mortgage, a trust deed, and I'm gonna have to look because it's kind of small on my screen. The individual has signed his middle name Michael, Michael, but in the text of the document itself, it was spelled Michal, and you can see it's kind of hard to see, but every time Michael was spelled wrong without the E, the clerk has underlined that spelling to indicate that's how it was spelled on the deed. The one thing the clerk did not do is Barbara. I just noticed this yesterday when I was looking this over again. Sometimes it's spelled ending with an A. Sometimes it's spelled ending with a Y.
Yeah.
My guess is that's the way it was on the original deed, so that's the way the clerk has written it. But I don't think he's underlined that. But right. I know in looking at that, every time John Michael signed it, AEL, but in every reference in the actual mortgage, it's just Michal. And so every Michael spelled that way is underlined. Again, because he's just making notation that that's the way it was written. It's not my mistake. It's the whoever wrote the deed out. Their mistake.
Yeah, that's it. Okay. That's interesting because I had not encountered that previously. Yeah.
No.
Well, where I'm from, we make a lot of people can't spell except for the clerks. Joke.
We're in counties with good spellers, Jim.
But all joking aside, especially with deeds, and you want to get those legal descriptions right. So the clerk, he would write exactly as it was, because that's the legal. If we go back to what the purpose of a recorded deed or mortgage is, that's the legal equivalent of that document. And what it says in the record copy is what it is. And so blanket, that needs to be a true reproduction of that document. So that's why they were very meticulous, or should have been meticulous, when they noticed an error of that type.
Are there any other types of notations that you would talk to that we might not have examples of?
Some of the errors, I've seen them put a long wiggle, looks like an elongated tilde, if they think a word is wrong, or they'll underline it, just something to indicate, to draw attention to it, that it wasn't. It looks wrong, but it's not my job to fix this. That's why you have lawyers.
Exactly. Okay, so let's look at the last step, which is, well, it's not the last step. Research others with the same notation. So I think you guys kind of spoke to that. Did you have any additional adds for that?
If you want to roll back to the detail slide of mine, I just want to make one more note, and in this case, it's about the dating. The very bottom one, my ancestor's marriage, it simply says eodem, eodem, which is Latin for the same. So that in itself is not helpful determining what the date of the marriage is, but you need the context of exactly what we were just talking about. Look at other records. Well, the one above it says Dom 2 post Epiphany, which again is not doesn't tell you right off the bat. You need a perpetual calendar. You need to know the church feast dates of the time. But if you go through those additional steps, you find out the second Sunday after Epiphany in 1756 happened to be January 18th, and that means that my ancestor's marriage also was on January 18th.
Oh my goodness. I'm going to have to go to German school.
Jawohl.
I need to go to Germany first, though. Let's see. It's not.
That's a good example of why it's important to copy more than just your entry on your dude and dudette.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got to do that.
Yep. Whole
Oh.
pages, because then you can get usually the years are at the tops of the pages, all
Mhm.
that sort of thing.
But the dating of the whole thing is what got them in trouble. That's why they were getting married. If we go back to the dating, that was important for several reasons there.
All right, let's look at these steps for dot, dash, dot. Don't ignore notations. So step 1 is you want to find that record with a notation that you don't understand. Step 2 is to transcribe the entry exactly as it's written. Step 3, research the notation. Step 4, look at other records in series for the same notation. Step 5, research others with the same notation. And step 6, document your findings. All righty. Thank you so much for that. I just want to go look for notations now. Forget looking for my ancestors. I just want some notations. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Where are you, Jim? There you are. All right, guys. How are you doing? If you've come in, you didn't tell us where you're from. We'd love to know where you're from. All right. So we here at Genealogy Quick Start have started something new, and I'm going to share it with you in 1 second. Okay, you. Maybe. All right. All right, today we have an extra special guest, Melvin Collier. And we also have started a new kind of segment. And you might have seen it on the Facebook page, but I want to go ahead and show you Melvin's example of what we are calling at Genealogy Quick Start. It's called First and Now. So let me share it with you. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 sec. Sorry. I could be better than this. I can be better. Give me 1 second. All right. Share my screen. Here we go. All right. Are you guys able to hear this? Okay, thank you. I don't know what's going on, so I will stop that and I will bring my Melvin on. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. I'll figure it out. Thank you, Jim and Michael, for letting me know. Let's bring Melvin on. Sorry about that, guys. Hey, Melvin, how are you?
How are you? Thank you for having me on. I'm
I'm
excited.
sorry about the pain of that. I didn't know that you guys couldn't hear it.
Yeah.
You guys will be able to see it on the Facebook page and YouTube. So, Melvin, we ask all of our special guests to tell us their 1 minute genealogy story, meaning how did you get started and when did you know that you were hooked?
Okay. I've always been inquisitive. I was very close to my paternal grandmother, and she would talk, and I would love to listen to her stories. And then the summer of 1993, my family and I went to Chicago to visit my aunt, and her son-in-law had a genealogy booklet, and he had traced his family all the way back about 6 or 7 generations. And I was just hooked in when I saw that because I was asking him, "How do you do that? You know, that's something I want to do." So he said, "Jamel, you're right there in Mississippi. Just go down to the archives and get started." And the day after we got back to Mississippi, I went down to the archives in Jackson and got started and been hooked ever since. And that was in 1993.
That sounds nice. I know some folks at the Mississippi Archives. Very nice, very, very nice people. One guy, he kept calling me ma'am all the time. I was gonna have to hurt him, but I understood. He was
Oh yeah,
being
that's how we were raised.
respectful. I was like, if you call me ma'am one more time. But no, it's very nice.
Okay.
So, Melvin, you have a hold on, you have a great quick start today, and
Okay.
I just need to bring up the title. I love this
All right.
title. Um, and I'm very happy for what happened to you. Give me 1 second. So, the title for your quick start is When Grandma's Challenge Pension Opened More Doors.
Yes.
Love pensions. Oh my gosh, they're so
Oh
much
my
fun.
God. I can't. Oh God. I want to get up now and turn flips again. And this is
So Melvin, before we get going, I remember you on that video, you talked about how you like to write. You said it like somebody says, I love candy. You love to write, Melvin, huh?
yeah, especially if it's genealogy related. You know, I'll go down to the archives and research something, and if I have a good day, I'll come back and just write out. What I found, what it told me. Because I want to be able to go back and read what I had done. So I used to love to write that stuff.
That's amazing.
I still do. That's why I have a blog.
And that's why you have so many books. We're going to show everyone continue to show everyone your books, but let's go
Yeah.
ahead and get started with your quick
Okay.
start. When Grandma's challenge pension opened more doors. So step one is read and transcribe. No, that's not right, is it?
I think that's step one.
Oh, okay. So you got your record, read, and you want to transcribe the record. So tell
Yeah.
us, how do you get pension records?
Well, you can get it in several ways. You can go online, go to nara.gov, and the quick way is they have like a little search engine bar. You can just put in Civil War, and then they have the instructions right there. To fill out the NATF 86 form and send it in, or you can do a personal visit. I also recommend they now have the Civil War Pension Index on ancestry.com. Can you believe that? You know,
Yes.
if you find somebody in that index, go get their pension record. And then they still have the soldiers and sailors database online too. You can search that as well. If you find somebody, that may be your ancestor, it's definitely worth checking out. Definitely worth to see, if they have a pension file.
And I definitely suggest anybody, when you get back to 1870, all males that could have fought in the Civil War, I would say starting at age 14, look them up. You might find them in there. So
Yeah.
you got this delicious record and you want to transcribe it, read it and transcribe it. Step
Yes.
2 is to conduct additional interviews. Can you tell us like what so you said that was the record, and we're going to show it in a second, the record that broke everything open.
Yes, it was.
What interview was it that also kind of broke things open for you?
Oh, I remember it so clearly. I had just recently moved to Memphis, Tennessee. I just got my first job out of college, and my mother was born and raised like 30 miles south of Memphis. So we had a lot of family in Memphis. So my mom kept telling me, go see Cutting Robert. In the South we say Cutting. Go see go see Cutting Robert. He can tell you much more than I know. So my uncle and I both we went over Cutting Robert's house, and I introduced myself. He knew exactly who I was because my grandmother was his first cousin. So and he at the time he was in his 90s. So, I told him, I just want to know more about the family. And he lit up like a Christmas tree. It was like he was so excited that somebody asked him about, the family. And I see why, because he had all this knowledge within him ready to tell somebody. So, I'm sitting there, I had my questions that I want, I asked him, and then too, I let him talk, because you can get some juicy information.
Oh
You
yeah.
get some very juicy information if you allow them to talk. Just don't sit there and just ask questions,
Like
allow,
rapid fire. You don't want
right,
to do that.
right. Spark a memory and let them talk. So he
Yes.
was talking, and he was talking about how, my granddaddy fought in that war with sticks. So I was like, wait, okay, your grandfather is my great great grandfather, fought in the war with sticks. So I said, wait a minute, are you talking about the Civil War? He said, yeah, that war. He fought in that war with sticks.
Wow.
And he go on to relay how his father helped his grandmother to get a pension, because my daddy had to take grandma down to Batesville to apply for that pension, and she used that pension to buy her land.
Wow.
He had knowledge of his grandfather fighting in the Civil War. He had knowledge that his grandmother got a pension. So I did the exact same thing.
You are
Wow.
genealogically blessed, Melvin. Oh my goodness.
So,
Oh my
but get
goodness.
this. He said, wait a minute. He went in his back room and got a photo album and showed me a picture of her, which I'm going to show you all in a few minutes. Showed me a picture of other family members, and he was just excited as I was.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it was, I mean, he remembered that they had come off the Bobo place. He said they had been enslaved by some Bobo man, because they used to call it Bobo Bottom.
Okay.
So, I got the slave
I got
owners.
chills, Melvin.
Oh my God. I don't even think I slept that night after that interview.
So
But
let's go. So
okay.
let's go on so we could have some time to share them documents.
Okay.
So step 2, after you talk to this, Melvin, you are like the golden child with all this good stuff. Step 3 is then to gather additional documents to prove the information.
Yes.
How did you, let's go ahead and show some of your some of your stuff. So
Okay.
we have to see Rob, your cousin Rob, Cutting Robert. Let's show Cutting Robert. I don't want to get it wrong. Give me 1 second. My screen sharing is like really tripping. Let's see Cutting Robert. Here he comes. I think. Maybe. Here he is. Please, Cutting Robert.
There he is. There he is on the left side with his grandson, who is also named Robert. And I put a notation, a walk-in history book, because that is exactly what he was to me. He passed away in 2008 at the age of 103 and had a sharp mind.
Wow, 103. And so who do we have? Is this the picture he brought out for you?
Yes, that's one of the pictures that he brought out. The man in the picture is his father, Alfred Danner. And Alfred is my great-grandmother's brother. And then their sister, Laura Danner Reed.
Oh.
So that's a picture of his father and his aunt, which was my great-great-aunt.
Wow.
So yeah, he was showing me pictures and talking. And this is you see the picture on the right hand side, the older picture of Grandma Lou. That's the one he had. Yeah, on the yeah. It
Okay.
was
Wow.
it was a little tin picture, and then another cousin had the younger picture of Lou. So I'm
Oh,
just that was my great great grandmother of Como, Mississippi.
and this is the one who got the pension?
Yes, that's the
Oh
one.
my goodness.
That was his grandmother who said who he remembered. He remembered his grandmother very well, and the pension file was very thick. And this is just to show you, like an index that was in the pension file, just to show you all of the things that
Yeah.
was in there. And I was able to get the pension file because at that time, I knew Angela Walton Raji was making periodic trips to the National Archives, and
Hmm.
this was around Christmas of 1996, and I was living in Memphis, Tennessee at the time. So, so as you can imagine, after I got through talking to cousin Robert, I picked up the phone. I called Angela. I said, "Guess what?" I said, "My great great grandfather fought in the Civil War." So, and it just so happened she was going to go to the National Archives that week. And she said, "You know what? I'm going to look for him." I said, look for Edward Danner or Edward Bobo, because I now know that the last slave owner was a Bobo." So she called me several days later, and that's what she said. "Oh, Melvin, are you sitting down?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I found it. It is so thick."
Oh,
And she started reading me some of the things. Yes, it's one of the things that was in the pension file. Grandma Lou's deposition. And this is just one of many that was in the pension file. But reading hers was the one that really just made me start doing jumping jacks. Because she said, "I claim pension as the widow of Edward Danner, who served as a soldier in Company I of the 59th U.S. Colored Volunteer Infantry. I don't know the date of his enlistment, but he left home, Panola County, Mississippi, a short while before
before
Christmas,
Christmas.
after the war had been going on about 3 years, and went to Memphis to join the Union Army. He had been in service about a year, I reckon, when his young master, who was a Confederate soldier, captured him at Guntown and saved his life." And I'll talk about that. Edward served under the name Edward Bobo, as we both belong to Dr. William Bobo. I I was like, "Oh wow, this is the slave owner's name." So cousin
Wow.
Robert was right, So belonged to Dr. Bobo before the war and were known by his name. But after the war, the first year after the war, my husband took the name of Danner, as he formerly belonged to the
Oh
Danner
my
in
goodness.
South Carolina and was bought by Dr. Bobo from the Danner estate. I had a husband while we lived in South Carolina named Mac Ray, who belonged to a neighbor family by whom I had 2 children, but I was separated from him by my old master moving from South Carolina to this
Oh
county
my goodness.
shortly before the war and never saw him anymore. I lived with Edward Bobo or Danner as his wife from the time we were married till he died, excusing the time he was in the war, and we were never separated or divorced. I have not remarried since he died. Have always till this year lived around in the old neighborhood. And these are just
Oh,
a few. There's more. There is a lot more, but due to timing, she had a very long deposition. And this is another record that was in the pension file, because it finally gave, I didn't know before then, I didn't know where in South Carolina they had come from. I had
okay.
I had some possibilities, and one of my possibilities was Spartanburg. I said maybe
Okay.
because there were a lot of white bobos there. But this document, and it gave a description of my great great grandfather. Say he was 5'8". His eyes, hair, and complexion were black. He was born in Union County, South Carolina. Oh my God, I'm just reading this stuff and like, oh my, oh, you just cannot even
Ooh,
imagine.
goose pimples.
But look at this notification too. Can you go back just for a second?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Sure.
This last notation, it say application, and you can see it's written in a different handwriting. So it's an application for an honorable discharge in this case has been denied. So apparently, my great great grandmother was applying and she got rejected because he was not honorably discharged. So that's why they made that notation, and that's why the file was getting thick because, she was going back and reapplying. So you can turn to the next document.
Okay.
And this is a special notation that examiner W.W. Ragsdale wrote in the pension file dated June 27, 1890 in Memphis, Tennessee. The claimant is an industrious and well-respected colored woman. Is not bright mentally. Oh goodness. That
Why do you have to say that?
Why do you have to say that? And that's not true because this lady purchased 100 acres of land by herself in 1898. Right. So yeah, she was very bright. Okay, it's honest and truthful. All of the witnesses seen by me in the claim are of the quote unquote better class. Of colored people. The testimony herewith shows that the claimant was the soldier's wife according to slave custom before and up to his enlistment. So I read that notation. It was like, this is like a notation where he's giving his opinion of her.
Yes.
Yeah. So
wow.
So that was good. That was good. And this is another document that was in the pension file, the widow's pension, and it listed she had 8 children by her husband Edward Danner. So and as you can see, I didn't transcribe the children's name, but they have them all listed with their birthdays.
Wow.
Yep. Her oldest daughter Mary is my great grandmother.
Okay, so Mary right here is yours.
Yes,
okay.
You see it. Yes, that's my great grandmother. So, and Alfred right above her is cousin Robert's father. So now you see the connection. But like this particular document was dated February 3rd, 1891. And it say approved for rejection. So they were automatically rejecting the file because my great-great-grandfather was not honorably discharged from service.
Okay.
So that's why the record kept growing because she didn't give up. This quote unquote not bright.
I was going to say she was quite bright. She
right.
kept going.
But she kept going. And that's what I heard about it. That's what cousin Robert shared with me about his grandmother. He said she was a very strong woman and she want what she want, He even mentioned how she wanted all of her daughters, particularly, to get an education, So he remembered a lot about his grandmother. He was like 17 when she died. So he remembered her very clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And so what is this? This is more. We have another special notation.
Yeah, this is a notation where they're recommending, they finally gave him a discharge because this say respectfully return to Commissioner of Pension with reply that the Adjutant General on March 25th, 1891 issues an honorable discharge to date May 1st, 1865 to this soldier. So they finally gave him, they reviewed the case, they reviewed the depositions, they learned about, why he went missing because he was captured during the Battle of Bryce's Crossroads. He was captured. So, and they took him to Ripley, Mississippi. And it just so happened that his slave owner's son, Alexander Bobo, was right there in Ripley. And he recognized him. He recognized him as one of the captured soldiers. And he said, yo, that is my slave. You're not. And they were planning on killing them, I think it was 4. It was 4 people who were captured, and my great-great-grandfather was one of them. And Ed Bobo said, though, no, Alexander Bobo said, no, that's my slave. You're not going to kill him. So they released him back to his slave owner's son. And they came back to Mississippi together. Because
was that in this pension or was this further research that you did? Oh my goodness.
Yes, because the file was so thick and my great-great-grandmother had to get these testimonies, to try to explain. My husband was in the war. He just got captured. That's why, he was written on the records missing in action.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a notation he was missing in action. He got captured, so
Oh my good. So he got captured.
he got
How did
captured.
was he manumitted to enlist?
I
Or
don't
did
know.
he run away?
She just mentioned that he left home and went to Memphis, Tennessee to fight in the war.
Okay.
And but also some of the depositions were from other soldiers who had fought in the war, who was from that same area. So
Mhm.
I'm envisioning that, there were a group of men who were in that part of the northern Mississippi to recruit black men to fight for the Union Army, and he went along.
And
And
then
when
he got reclaimed. He got reclaimed by his
yeah,
former, and oh my goodness.
and his wife was several months pregnant when he went to the war. I figured that out. I was like, wow.
Oh my goodness. Let's look at this record. This looks like some more. This is like a reality show. This is dramatic.
Yeah. Now this is an affidavit from another soldier in that same regiment who was describing my great great grandfather suffered a lot of illness in the war, as did many soldiers, because they had to consume a lot of infected food from
Yes.
troops and what have you. So a lot of them got sick. And he said, I know from my personal knowledge that Edward Bobo contracted diarrhea and dyspepsia on about the 15th of April, 1864, while being on guard duty at Corinth, Mississippi. The soldier would commence vomiting immediately after eating. He would have severe pains in his stomach. He would be restless all the time after eating. He would often bend over and hold his stomach with his hands for 3 or 4 minutes. And then he would go out to the stool for 3 to 6 times a day. The disease
Wow.
continued to get worse and worse until he was captured in the Battle of Guntown, Mississippi on June 10th, 1864. And that's the Battle of Bryce's Crossroads. So, yeah, it was a lot of people giving a lot of details. And that was kind of sad for me to read that,
Very sad.
yeah,
He wasn't doing good at all.
he
I had
wasn't doing good at all. He suffered during his service, and he died in 1878. So he, just 15 years, well, about 13 years after the war, he passed away. He was about 40 something. So he really suffered.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did. They suffered a lot. I had one soldier who his parents found out that he was sick like this, that he was having diarrhea and stuff. They went over to Camp William Penn and brought him home and took care of him and then
Okay.
took him back. Melvin, you have so much stuff here. Let me show this one here now. What's this telling us?
Okay, this was this is another thing I was turning flips over, because I didn't know who Grandma Lou Danner's parents were. I knew her.
Oh.
We had knowledge that her father was white, and even cousin Robert remembered the surname of her white father, but we didn't have any information about who her mother was. So it was right there in the deposition, and she was basically explaining that her mother was the midwife who delivered her babies. So this is what she said: they have had all of the ages of my children set down in the Bible, but it got destroyed, and my little Bible I now have got some ages in it. I had no doctor when they were born.
Ooh.
My mother, Clarissa Bobo, was the
Oh.
midwife and is dead. And she gave that deposition in 1898. And this is just an 1880 census where I had seen that name. That's the thing about it. Once cousin Robert kind of verified that they come from the Bobo place, I went back to the census and started looking at all the Bobos, and I had seen her. So when I read the deposition, that's her mother. This is my 3 times great grandmother. So I would have never known that. And then after, like I said, cousin Robert was a wealth of knowledge, because he was remembering cousins to his grandmother. Now get that now. Some people can barely remember the
Yes, he got the cousins.
I mean, he was talking about, oh yeah, these people were kin. This person was kin to grandma. This person was kin to grandma. And he said Grandma Lou was kin to the Boyces. And so that clicked for me, because Dr. Bobo, the slave owner, his wife was a Boyce.
Oh.
And now I'm getting this oral history that Grandma Lou was kin to the Boyces, So, Dr. Bobo's father-in-law, David Boyce, he passed away in 1830, and I was able to get this his estate record from the South Carolina archives. And the names that he was remembering, I researched, And I was able to find that this highlighted family was indeed Clarissa's parents and her siblings, because he
Oh
remember.
my goodness.
Yes, he would say, like, okay, for an example, girl, it says Prissy. Well, her name was Priscilla, and she married Jefferson. That's in that at the top. It's not highlighted. She
Okay.
married Jefferson. They were Williams, and he remembered their son, and he immediately said, "Oh, that was Grandma Lou's first cousin." I
Oh
was
my,
like, get out of here! You are remembering my great great grandmother's first cousins.
oh my goodness. He was you. Oh my gosh. He was manna from heaven.
Oh yeah, he was, like I said before, he was a walking history book. I mean, he was remembering folks. I'm gonna share this right quick. I
Oh,
have a
okay.
cousin. I have a cousin, and she remembered that her father remembered that his great grandmother was Easter Franklin or something like that. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna call cousin Robert. He may have known them. And so I called him and I said, "Do you remember a Fanny Franklin?" He said, "Yeah, I remember them. She had a brother named Doc, and that was Grandma Lou's cousin." So my cousin and I just, we found out that we were related on her father's side too, just by that memory. So
Wow.
yeah, he was a wealth of knowledge, and I miss him a lot. But
Oh, I miss him too.
he was such a kind man. He would call and check on me just to see how I was doing. You know, it's usually the other
Oh,
way around, but he would call and say, "Hey, I'm just checking on you." So,
oh,
oh
I
yeah,
love that. I
yeah,
love that. So
yeah,
we were on step 3 about gathering documents to prove the information.
yes.
And this is one of the documents that you found to help, I guess, prove some of that information and
Oh
going
yes.
back all the generations. Tell us how you found this. Where did you find this slave inventory, and what's it telling us?
Well, the previous inventory was of David Boyce, and I was able to pinpoint Grandma Clarissa's parents from that slave inventory. And then I noticed that the name Turner was a family name because I had a lot of family members with the first name Turner. And then it just so happened that David Boyce's wife's father was a Turner. So again, I obtained the slave inventory of John Turner, who was the father-in-law of David Boyce, and I found Dick, who was Grandma Clarissa's father, which is Grandma Lou's grandfather. And then I found, like, if you read the entire estate file, you kind of ascertain that Jack and Annika were husband and wife, and even like some of the children. I was following the children in the census. Just don't focus on your own ancestor.
Hmm.
I was following some of them because they were split up between John Turner's 4 daughters. So I was able to find several of them, like in the 1870, 1880 census, and like boy Jack, he even named his only daughter Annika.
So,
So,
Melvin, where did you get the inventory? Where did you find it?
well, at the time, I wrote a letter to the a letter, because we're talking about 1997, because when Angela sent me that pension, it was January 2nd, 1997.
Okay.
I still have the packet with the postmark date on. That's how I know the date. So when it came in the mail, it was 1997. So I had to probably have gotten that in 1997 or 98. And at the time, you could send a letter of request to like the South Carolina Archives or the North Carolina
Okay.
Archive. I sent a letter of request asking if they had the estate file for David Boyce and John Turner. And of course, they send you an invoice and how much you need to pay to get it. I did all of
Okay.
that, and they sent it back to me. Now it's a little different. Now it's amazing
Yep.
how times have changed. But
Yep.
that's how I got it in 1997.
So it was the state archives, and
Yeah.
today they could go to like Family Search to probably find something
Oh
like
yes,
that.
yes. I think a lot of the South Carolina probate or state records are in FamilySearch.org.
Okay, so
So
Melvin, let's go through the steps. Our times is getting short. I love all these documents. We could go through them. So Melvin, and he's definitely step 4, all of this analysis and triangulating people and all of that. You got to analyze what you got. And then step 5, write a book like Melvin, who loves
Yes.
to write. And so these are Melvin's books. Take a look at them online. You might be able to get them through your library or something. But Melvin, amazing. Thank you for
Thank you for inviting me. Thank
sharing your
you.
family history. Let me go through the steps for when grandma's challenged pension opened more doors. Step 1 is to read and transcribe the record. Step 2, conduct additional interviews like Cousin Robert. Everybody needs a Cousin Robert, a Cousin Robert. Step 3, gather documents to prove the information. Step 4, analyze what you find. And step 5, you want to write a book like Melvin, and also a blog. You can check out Melvin's blog, Roots Revealed. Melvin, thank you so much for that. That was absolutely amazing. Our time is up. If you guys have questions for Melvin, feel free to ask, and check out his First and Now. Melvin, thank you. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right.
Did it end? No.
We are still live.
Oh, people can still see us.
Yeah.
Thank you, audience, for logging in.
I don't know why I can't end.